All right, episode 3 of Sox Degrees, and we are joined by the venerable pitching ninja, Rob Friedman. He's got the bandana ball behind him, so you know he's a ninja. I want to know first, what makes you love pitching?
You know, I've just always liked it. I think it's because the pitcher is kind of the center of attention on a baseball field. Nothing happens till the pitcher does anything. So it's kind of they need support. They need people to love them because they're something goes wrong, everybody's on them, and everybody always focus on home runs. Like they don't focus much on strikeouts or nasty pitches. So I'm just there for their support.
That's very warm. So I have another question for you, but it's better asked by our celebrity question asker, who also asked to ask this question to you. So Lucas Giolito, take it away.
Oh no.
I mean, I'm pretty much boys with Rob Friedman, pitching ninja at this point. I don't know if he's done this on podcasts, but like the origin story, like why? What'd you do before? Like, is it full-time now? Like, that kind of stuff.
I can answer that. Number one, Lucas is my bud. Like he will just randomly text me stuff. We have this ongoing thing during the season. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not, but I will, about the Vandy pitchers and stuff. Every time they would pitch, he started out more of a Kumar guy and then ended up being a Jack Leiter guy. And I've always taken the opposite side, no matter who he picks. So, so you want me to go into my origin story? Is that it?
He certainly does. He was being very Lucas. He was being very Lucas, by the way. Like he was asking a question, but he was also like fidgeting and like doing the whole thing.
I could do that too. I'll answer it like that. How about that? I'll do my Lucas imitation. I'll start
great.
Giving that mean look that he does on the mound, even though he's like one of the nicest guys. Yeah, exactly. Like lower. So my origin story is, for one, I was never like a great pitcher. Like I always loved pitching and I wanted to pitch, but I was never that good at it. So when I had a kid, he liked pitching, and for some reason, all the kids liked me because I'm kind of a goofball, and I got asked to coach. And the one thing that I wanted to do, and I guess this stems back from even being a lawyer, is I taught law school back in the day too. So I never wanted to I never wanted to make anybody worse. Like my thing is, I always wanted kids or whatever, to come away with something better. So I needed to learn everything kind of over. I didn't want to teach what I'd been taught, because what I taught, it just wouldn't, like, I knew that everything had advanced further from what I had been taught as a kid. So I did my research. I did, like any good lawyer does, I did a ton of research on pitching. And back in the day, there was this message board called Let's Talk Pitching that Kyle Bodie, now with the Reds, started there. And Lance Wheeler, Eric Cressy, now with the Yankees, was there. Alan Jaeger, who is a pitching guy who worked with folks like Clayton Kershaw and Trevor Bauer, he was there too. And all these guys, we'd all just share information. And like my thing is, I learn a lot by asking questions and by testing somebody, not by relying on marketing stuff. So I'll go beyond that. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people just they don't have the time or energy or whatever. And I had a lot of time on my hands. So I asked a lot of questions. And my thing was, like, I kept coaching. So I coached travel ball at East Cobb, coached high school ball, just in, spare time type stuff. And coached my kid, neighborhood kids, and other kids. Like, I had Georgia Tech's team come over during the pandemic and pitch in my basement, because I have a huge basement that I treat as a pitching lab. So I did all this stuff, and I knew that nobody was that crazy to do it. So what I did was take all this information, take all the questions I had, take all the learnings I had, and then share it on social media, because I knew someday I wasn't going to be coaching, and I wanted to help as many people as possible, because I just felt like in my heart, baseball shouldn't be a rich kid sport. or shouldn't be limited to parents that have the ability and the obsession to do all this stuff and buy all these tricks and devices and lessons and camps. And like, I wanted people to have that benefit. So I just decided to start sharing it on social media. So that's how I got started. It was more like from the coaching standpoint.
Before we go deeper into that, I just have a real quick question on letstalkpitching.com. Why were you McLovin?
Because I love Superbad. Like, I just love the movie. And that was one of the funniest scenes. Like, I saw that movie for the first time on a plane and I couldn't stop laughing. So I was like, I just had to do that.
That's awesome.
I was called by a basketball team McLovin once. That I was a team that I was traveling with, because evidently there's a slight resemblance.
I never thought that, but now I can't unsee it. So yeah, that's gonna go.
I was born in Hawaii, Rob.
But you have one name. How could you have one name?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, truly.
I'm glad you mentioned Kyle Bodie, because that was the name I thought of when you started to tell your story. And I've gotten to know Kyle a little bit. Any interest in being in uniform and coaching minor leaguers? Have you had offers to do so? I'm curious if you're open to any sort of job as it pertains to pitching and development, and a lot of the big league players you've met and gotten to know well. Would you like to be on the inside a little bit more in that regard?
I really don't. Like, I don't want to do the traveling. I don't want to I don't want it to be my profession. Like, I love doing what I do, which is entertaining and educating people that want to be educated, but not being so pedantic or whatever, like trying to just be about that. Like, I want to have fun. I think it's like an infotainment type of mix. And I think it works. Like, I don't know, like I happened into this niche, whatever this niche is. But no, I don't. Like, I've gotten offered college jobs and didn't want to do it. Like, I just don't have any interest in going down that route. I love helping pitchers though. So anybody that contacts me, I don't charge anything. I've never charged anything. I don't want to charge, because then it's work. Like, I'll do it for fun. But MLB guys all the time contact me for grips or say, hey, what are you seeing? And that's a blast for me. That's payment enough. Like, just having, someone like Lucas saying, hey, what did you see? Or can you get that pitch? Or I threw this really nasty thing that you didn't tweet, so get on there and tweet it. Like, it could be anything, but I love that stuff. Like, that's me.
I want to ask, have you ever been shamed into posting a video that you really didn't believe in, but you kind of felt bad that the guy was begging for it?
Yeah, probably I have. That's definitely occurred. Like, usually I won't, but occasionally, if it's somebody especially that I really like, and I'll do that. Very seldom, but I will.
Where does one go about purchasing a mitt that's a chair?
That thing back there. So I was like, if I'm going to be doing a lot of these video things, I need something cool in this room. Other than me, like, I know that I'm just awesome in and of myself, but I needed something to take the focus away from me. And so I got that online. Like, I just bought it. It's not inexpensive, but it's definitely a conversation piece. So it's worth it. It's cool.
So you just said something that makes me ask this question. And I want to say to you before I ask it that I enjoy the person I'm about to ask the question about. You said, I'm awesome. And so I want to know what it's like to work with Trevor Bauer.
So I respect Trevor a ton and what he's done for the game. Like, and this is something that I think everybody should kind of understand. Number one, he loves being controversial. Like, he wants you to either love or hate him. And I've loved or hated him. Like, I will say politically, we are very, very different. But as far as changing the game, like, he has been through a lot of the same stuff that I've been through as a coach. He went through as a player, and he has the arrows in his back to show it. Extreme long toss. When he came into the league, everybody wanted to stop him from doing that. They were like, oh, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to tire yourself out. Don't do it. Those running throws that he used to do on the bump before he as one of his warm-up pitches. Everybody's like, oh, that's crazy. That doesn't help. That's just for show. Weighted balls, slow motion cameras, the Edgertronic, Rapsodo, just kind of every pitch design as a whole, tunneling stuff. He was very early on all that too. Every step of the way, people told him no. So that personality that you either love or hate, he does what he thinks is right. And I think he's onto, like, he does a lot of really, really innovative stuff. He's not afraid to make a fool of himself. Like, those are characteristics that are awesome. It also leads to some things like, if you have that mentality, a lot of times you're not going to accept the status quo. So some of the things you might say are controversial or whatever, because you're just, you're saying it and you're not willing to be part of the mainstream. So it's always going to be, a big deal. So he is a very, like, he's a good dude. He just has a hard time showing it a lot of times because he doesn't really, sometimes he mostly doesn't care what you think. Like, he just doesn't care. And we've had our debates on stuff, but in the end, I think he has affected the game more than almost any pitcher around. And everybody kind of owes him a little tip of the cap to him, because he's fought battles now that pitchers are commonplace, throwing weighted balls, right? Everybody does it. Yeah. So he's changed the game a ton.
It's interesting that you said earlier about how pitchers need love, and the place I go, Rob, is pitchers are dominating. They don't need the love. You actually, it's like you bought a stock at the perfect time where it just skyrocketed, right? So are you worried that, and we can get into more of the substance stuff with the grips, but are you a little worried that pitchers are kind of on the front lines right now, being knocked down a little bit, and because everybody does want more balls in play, maybe less nastiness that you love so much? I think all three of us do. Are you concerned at all about the short-term future in terms of pitching?
So great point. Like, I will take a tiny bit of credit. Like, I think pitchers have been learning from stuff that social media puts out there. And I'm, as somebody that puts out a lot of pitching stuff, I think pitchers that weren't into some of this stuff actually learned it and then thought it was cool, and they love being featured. So they're trying to develop a new pitch or borrow pitches from each other. So part of it is a community that helps each other. And I'm kind of like the center, the hub in the middle of it, where I can help share it, which is kind of cool. But no, I think viewership is up. Interaction with social media is up. Streaming, everything else is up. So the idea that fans don't like this, I think maybe some don't. Like, I think some want more balls in play. But I think some like the cage match mentality of a hitter versus a pitcher. If you lose, he's going to bat flip it. If the hitter wins, he's going to strut off the mound and do whatever. I mean, the Trevor Sword thing, or the Stroh skips. Alzolay does his stuff. Like, you have guys that are all doing stuff. Liam Hendriks, like, Lord knows, like, he will put it in your face if he beats you. Hoyer will just sit there and do this little spit strut. Like, all these guys have, like, it's awesome. It makes the game more interesting. It's what, like, I think everything's moving towards. It's why, like, UFC is a big deal, or boxing or whatever. It's mano-a-mano, pitcher versus hitter, and it's a 1 or a 0. And I think that's good for the sport. Like, I think seeing nasty pitches is awesome, and seeing balls hit 500 feet is awesome.
So you mentioned Liam. You have posted a clip of Liam and Trevor Bauer both strutting on the mound. And then you mentioned UFC as well. So we're going to show the clip, and I want you to say who does it better.
Well, clearly, Trevor is closer to the actual Conor McGregor strut. But Liam is hilarious. Like he's doing it to just, like, he's a funny dude. He's one of my favorite dudes in the game. Like, I appreciate it. I think he's half mocking what Trevor does. And he's awesome. Like, talk about a guy that doesn't care. He's great.
You have a clip from your podcast, and we'll have Brian pull this here. You interviewed Liam Hendriks a bunch of months ago, and I want everybody to listen to this comment, because when you say Liam's great and he doesn't care, this is the epitome of that. This 30 seconds from Liam Hendriks is the epitome of that.
I'm just going out there. It's me versus him. There's no number. I don't care who's in the box. I'm going to beat that guy in that specific at bat. I know I'm better than him. I always put it like I'm an egotistical narcissist on the mound when I pitch. Off the field, I feel like I'm relatively humble. I mean, probably not. But I feel like on the mound, like I am better than every single person that is on the other team, and I'm going to prove it to you every single night. And that's just how it's been. Because, I mean, I'm sure you've spoken to other people. If you ever doubt your pitch, even if it's the correct pitch in the great location with everything going for it, it doesn't have the same weight as a guy who throws the wrong pitch with conviction.
So number one for me there is somebody who's trying to claim that he's humble, and then 5 words later says he's probably not.
he is so awesome. This was actually before he was signed with everybody, and I love that. Like, I put that out there. I'm like, I love dudes like that who, exactly what I was saying, like that's a cage match mentality. I am better than the hitter, and I'm going to prove it. And if I beat him, I'm going to yell at the top of my lungs, shove this ball down his throat. He even said at one point, if he beats a hitter on a pitch, he will almost guarantee that hitter is seeing the pitch the next pitch. Like if he throws a slider and the hitter can't hit it, he's going to throw it again. And he doesn't care putting that out there. Like, and we did the analysis. He did that constantly. Like when he beats a hitter with a pitch, he will throw that pitch again. You think you can be suckered into it or something if the hitter knows that, but he just he views this as me versus the hitter, and I think that's the game right now. Like everybody loves great plays in the field, everybody loves stolen bases and base running and all that, but at the end of the day, it's the pitcher versus the hitter. That's who the eyes are on, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if anything, baseball shouldn't run from it. Just buy into it. Like there's a reason why, my stuff tends to get really popular and people like watching nasty pitches. It's because that's what people like. And people like seeing bat flips and home runs. I mean, they just do.
Rob, Jason and I are definitely into the analytics, but I find the intangible part of the game really intriguing. And the idea of a pitcher like Liam, or maybe an Aroldis Chapman or a Trevor Bauer, and the fact that they don't seem to get rattled when somebody goes deep against them. In Liam's case, he gave up a few home runs early in the season, and it was almost as if his reaction to the home runs was, okay, now you really got my attention, right? And I think there are times when anecdotally you watch pitchers and they give up a home run and they cannot even believe that somebody could do that, and it takes them a few batters to kind of get it back. Do you find that part of the game interesting too?
I love it. Like, I think that is to be a successful pitcher, you almost have to kind of get yourself into that mindset, and it's not that easy. Like, if you mess up even doing this, you're going to sit there and go, boy, I better not. Everybody goes through that in life. Like, you mess up and you get a little bit shy of it. But the ones that are successful are ones that put themselves out there and understand that's part of the process, learn from it, and then put themselves out there again and get better from it. So yeah, like I think that is a huge, actually, you mentioned the analytics versus not analytics. I think that's a great point. To me, fans sometimes get lost in the analytics aspects of it. Like I dive into that stuff too, but you'll notice I don't put it out there as much as some with my stuff, because I think fans, like, you watch a game, you're not in it for math. A lot of people are like, I hope there's no math in this. So like, I want
math. We like Sox math.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We
Sox
do a math
awesome.
Trivia question, Rob. Get off our podcast.
All right. Well, to take it one step further, my dad was a math teacher for 35 years in high school. So
is that right?
Oh yeah.
So
and I was a math major for a week.
You shun math?
No, I
because
don't.
of that?
No, I'm naturally good at math, but I intentionally became a lawyer almost to counteract that. Like, I didn't want to do math, something I was good at. I wanted to do something. I wasn't naturally a good writer. I ended up being a good writer because I taught myself that. I am much more math minded And I just I don't know why I do this. I think it's just to challenge myself, like doing different things.
I agree with you completely. They ran out of people to write the baseball prospectus forward a couple years ago. Literally everybody on earth passed or was on an airplane at the time they needed it done. But that's my feeling on it too, is know the analytics, but people don't need to be encumbered by them.
Exactly. If they help tell the story, that's important. As a coach, yes, I use Rapsodo, TrackMan, all that stuff. I always use it. Like I would use it all the time. I use get people's velo, get their spin rates, get everything, because it tells a story. But my job is to communicate it in a way that doesn't have their brain shut off. So I'll show a nasty pitch and say, hey, this was a spin rate on it, but also put it in context of why that is. Now, that's not saying I love the StatCast broadcast. I love all that stuff is fantastic. But I think you have to put you got to do a good job of putting in context to me.
I totally agree. That's the hallmark of what we try to do with that show, is have a reason for every stat, not just throw it at you. But I'm interested in what your favorite pitch design story is in the pitchers you have encountered, because you mentioned design. And I think if more fans understood design and the creativity of pitch shape, fans would understand that battle you're talking about more. So what pitch design stories do you find interesting?
So one really interesting thing was Yu Darvish. So Yu Darvish actually reached out to me because he knew he needed a ball that moved like Shane Bieber's knuckle curve. So he said, hey, can you get me all the stuff you have on Shane Bieber's knuckle curve? His grip, everything like that, because he needed a pitch to move exactly the way Bieber's knuckle curve moved. So we went over DM. I sent him some stuff, and I said, you got to show me when you do it. And he went out, did it in the next bullpen. I got it. And the very next game, put it in the game and started throwing these nasty sliders. So I was like, wait a second. I didn't notice you throwing the knuckle curve. He's like, yeah, I wasn't able to get the knuckle curve the way I wanted to, but I throw now a spike slider that has the movement that I wanted to have in that same spin axis. So he is amazing. Talk about a dude who is dedicated to his craft, understands how everything is interconnected, understands the advanced data, but also how the body works, mentally how it works. He's got he is a brilliant pitcher. But the ability to put that in a game is kind of crazy. So pitchers, basically what you're seeing today is what coaches used to do back in the day with their eyes. They would sit there and go, that didn't break the way you want it. You need a pitch to move like that. Now you're looking at the analytics behind it saying, I have a hole in my approach to a hitter. Or Max Scherzer needed a cutter to go under lefty's hands. He realized his slider was going into the bat path. He needed a shorter slider. And for his mind, that was a cutter. So he developed a cutter just because he saw that hole in the way he was attacking hitters and that he was getting beat too often. That's what pitch design is about. It's about knowing how to have all your pitches work together in a way to defeat the hitter's weakness, or go after a hitter's weaknesses to defeat the hitter ultimately. And it's just gotten better. So the ability to now say, I have pitches that actually literally do move. You can plot them and say, this is where all my pitches move, and I need a pitch to go this way. Then it's about developing a pitch with the right spin axis to go that way, so that you're able to hit the spot that you want to hit, and have them all tunnel ideally. I mean, tunneling is good and it can be really good, but doesn't mean every pitch has to tunnel. But if you do it and it ends up in that spot, you're going to be successful. So it's about being really, really smart and using the data to accomplish something on the field that you can do by feel and stuff.
Rob, I'm all about identifying pitches based on what a pitcher calls it, not necessarily what it does. And I know cutters and sliders sometimes, I remember, I think it was John Baker and Jake Arrieta arguing about Jake's slider. And Jake's like, it's a slider. If it's 87 or 92, it's a slider. And Baker's like, no, if it's 92, it's a cutter. And I said, well, what do you call it, Jake? So I get into that sort of thing. But along those lines, and Jason, you can chime in too. Within 10 years, are we going to have a new pitch? Can somebody just decide to come up with a new name for some sort of variation of one of the main pitches that we talk about all the time? Like, is it time to literally create another pitch? Speaking of design,
I did the airbender. So
the airbender, I love it.
Devin Williams so Devin Williams's changeup is a ridiculously pronated changeup. It has all the characteristics of a lefty slider. Basically, it's 3,000 RPMs, which changeups usually have fewer. I mean, it's a lower RPM pitch, so it sinks. He even was told that it was a bad pitch because it spun too much, and it ends up being one of the best pitches in baseball. But everybody was arguing with me, is it a changeup? Is it a screwball? And I'm like, you know what? It's an airbender. It's a different pitch than anybody throws. So now, I mean, he is the only one that throws it right now. But if other people do it and they're able to throw a 3,000 RPM changeup, I think it should be its own pitch category. But you're right. Like, that's a good point.
Yeah, love that.
I honestly, as I'm going to try and help you diversify here, I just think more pitchers need nicknames for their pitches. Like Lucas needs a name for his high changeup.
He does. So it's a very unique pitch. Like that is one of my favorite pitches. And I think it's every time I tweet that, there'll be one guy that says, oh, he just got away with that pitch. I'm like, no, he does it on purpose. He does it because he developed carry on his changeup that makes it look like his high fastball, that he gets success because it's a lot slower. It's like 12 to 15 miles an hour slower than his fastball. And if you're swinging at it, yeah, I mean, it's like, look at this. Like, what do you do as a hitter on that? That ball just drops out. Like, they look the same. And then it's like, what do you do? You're timing up the fastball, and then you get this thing that is way slower. You're hosed.
I've got an idea. And I used this line in a Kyle Hendricks game a few years ago, and I got a text right after the game from Dave Martinez, who was the bench coach with the Cubs at the time, and happened to be in the clubhouse during one of Kyle's innings. And I said, it looks like a paper airplane. And so maybe we need to come up with the paper airplane changeup.
Absolutely. That's a great changeup. Yeah. Like we need, I totally agree. Like these unique pitches need a different name because Lucas has two different changeups, right? He has the one that really fades, the other one that's kind of keeps playing and then just is slower. I think they need to, like, they're not the same pitch, right? You're 100% right. I think they need different names.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to work on that as a group here. I mean, nobody else is going to do it if not the three of us.
Right.
Like, we gotta.
All right. So, Rob, I got to talk Twitter here. I have two-part question. What was the first tweet you sent out from at Pitching Ninja, and what's the most popular tweet you've ever sent out in terms of likes and retweets and the like?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think the first one was probably just a map of home plate, just determining like how many baseballs you can fit across the plate. And I think everybody is kind of and also showing the fact that if a ball touches part of the home plate, like you get a ball either way, because if it touches just a little part of it, it's still considered a strike. If any part of the ball passes through any part of the plate. So I think that was it. It was just like, hey, welcome. This is kind of, I wanted to discuss. It wasn't anything that interesting, but to me, it was interesting. The most popular one, that's, it could be some of the times where like I'm trying to think of one that just jumped out. There's a Charlie Morton one a few years ago where I overlaid his curveball and his sinker. And it was unbelievable. It was nuts. And that really took off. I mean, I don't know how many views it got, but it was a lot. I think actually Fauci's first pitch got a lot of views too back in the.
Hey, Rob, shameless plug. Do you do merch? I know you got the cool hat. If people want that logo on a hat or a shirt, where can they find it?
If you go to pitching.ninja, you can find pretty much everything I sell. And I do it through RotoWare, who's a awesome dude, does stuff for everybody. And like he actually came up with the logo and he showed me and I'm like, wow, that's awesome, dude. That's great.
That's great.
Love it. Rob Friedman, Pitching Ninja. Thank you so much for doing this. Wonderful.
Thanks for having me.